Good afternoon. My name is Adrian Dix. I'm BC's Minister of Health. I'm honored to be here on the territories of the Lekwungen-speaking people of the Songhees and the Esquimalt First Nations. I just wanted to start by saying that we're obviously extremely pleased with Mr. Justice Steeve's decision today. Our defense in the case was successful in its entirety. As you know, the Cambie Surgeries Corporation had challenged Sections 14, 17, 18, and 45 of the Medicare Protection Act in BC. And I think that it's fair to say in this 880-page judgment that the ruling emphasized the strength and the importance of public health care, which is a cornerstone of our identity in British Columbia, a cornerstone of our identity in all of Canada. We're obviously delighted with the decision and pleased about the basis of the decision as well. I wanted to make a point, and it was made in the decision on page 248 and 249, of something that's fundamentally important for people, because even though this court case had very significant implications for public health care and is a very significant, I think, the result is a very positive one for the public health care system. In some ways, this for people is about patient cases and not about court cases. On page 248 and 250 of the judgment reads, encouragingly, many physicians testified that surgical wait times have improved in their practice in recent years, and that the province has introduced initiatives that successfully reduced wait times. I note in particular, for example, on hip and knee replacement operations, we went from just over 14,000 in the last year of the previous government to almost 19,000 in the past year, which is an extraordinary increase that reflects both our commitment and the commitment of our surgical plans and the very, very hard work of doctors and nurses and healthcare workers and people who work in rehab and support of surgeries. I note that in terms of MRI examinations, we went from 174,000 MRIs in 2016-17 to, at the end of last year, in spite of some slowdown at the very end of the last year, ending March 31st, 2020, we completed 252,000 MRI examinations, an increase of 76,000 in a short period, which reduced wait times across the province. In fact, there were some health authorities in BC that had less than half the number of MRIs as Ontario at that time, and we're very proud to have made those improvements. In 1 year, we increased the number of colonoscopies in BC by more than 19,000, from a base of 120,000 to almost 140,000 colonoscopies. These are real improvements, and they make a fundamental difference on the ground. Later today, I'll be announcing that between May 18th and September 6th, during a pandemic, we completed in BC 96,725 surgeries. And I think that reflects, again, the dedication and hard work in these times of our public healthcare system. And yes, in that public healthcare system, contracts with private surgical clinics do play a role in that. Last year, for example, 12,336 people in the public healthcare system were taken off wait lists as part of contracts between health authorities and private surgical clinics contracts that are fully compliant with the Medicare Protection Act and the Canada Health Act. In short, as you all know, we're in the middle of the COVID-19 public health emergency. And it's in this context, especially, that the extraordinary achievements, especially in surgery and diagnostics, have been achieved in the last number of months. This summer that we are in, surgeons and nurses and healthcare workers and health sciences professionals have completed more surgeries than they did last summer, in spite of the many challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. Having a public healthcare system makes all the difference, and this public health emergency has shown that. We have the means to do what we did to respond to this pandemic within public healthcare, and having the system in place and supporting it and giving it more resources to address the time of pandemic is exactly what needs to be done. And yesterday, the Premier announced $1.6 billion this year extra for public health care to support people in this difficult time. The priority of the Medical Services Commission and the Ministry of Health is to uphold the fundamental principles of the Medicare Protection Act and the Canada Health Act, and to support the benefits that provide safeguards and support and care for patients in this province. The purpose of the Medicare Protection Act is to have the publicly managed healthcare system in British Columbia have one in which access to necessary medical care is based on need and not on an individual's ability to pay. This ruling means that the BC healthcare system will continue to function as it always has. I wanted to finally, on this day, express my appreciation, my strong appreciation to all the people at the Legal Services Branch in the Ministry of the Attorney General that have played a role at some point in what has been, as you know, a very long saga in this case. But the ones who are most important include the team in the courtroom, which includes Jonathan Penner, Jacqueline Hughes, Kate Saunders, Tam Boyer, Cherise Friesen, Heidi Hughes, Peter Duncan, Philip McLaughlin, and Mark Whitten. And the team behind the scenes, Christine Jackson, Heather Lewis, Heather Warhurst, Leslie Campbell, and Carol Broussard. There are, of course, many others, but we are very appreciative for the work, the extraordinary work that they have done. Obviously, this judgment is a very good day for public health care in BC. But really, every day is a very good day for public health care in BC because of the work done by people in our public health care system and the support our public health care system gets from people across British Columbia. These successes that we've had in recent years and the incredible work of healthcare workers and professionals in this pandemic is a demonstration of that. And we are proud on their behalf of the success in court today. And I'm happy to take your questions.
Thank you, Minister. As a reminder to everyone on the phone, please press *1 to enter the queue. You are limited to one question and one follow-up. Please take yourselves off mute. You will not be audible until your name is called. First question is from Marcella Bernardo, News 1130.
Hi, Mr. Dix. I just wanted to ask you what the next steps are for you considering how much British Columbia has relied on private clinics to help clear the backlogs linked to the pandemic.
Well, the issue here, fundamentally, is extra billing. We have used, and we do use, private clinics and will continue to do as one part of our public health care system. Last year, the number was 12,336 surgeries that were performed out of the very large number of surgeries, well over 300,000 that we do in public health care. And those contracts between health authorities and those clinics will continue. They represent a small but important part of the services we provide. My priority is to improve services for people, to reduce wait times for people, to get them healthy again more quickly. And that's what we've consistently done. So the issue here is extra billing, fundamentally, and undermining the very basis of public health care. As you know, many physicians' offices in primary care have always been their own private corporations, but they receive payment through the Medical Services Plan. And so what the Medical Services Commission's role is, and what my role is as Minister of Health, is to ensure that ability to pay does not come into question when providing care. And that's important for the effective running of the system as well. It is important that the people who need care first get that care. And this decision reinforces that today. So in terms of the thing you're talking about, really those are decisions that we've made consistent with the Canada Health Act, consistent with the Medicare Protection Act. And we're going to continue to do everything we can to reduce wait times, to catch up for those surgeries that were delayed as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And you've seen the results. And later today, at 3 o'clock in my presentation with Dr. Henry, I'll again report in detail this week's results, which are again an extraordinary success for our public healthcare system.
Marcella, do you have a follow-up?
Just how confident are you that Brian Day is just going to walk away from this and not appeal this judgment?
Well, no, I want to, one always wants to be, and I am very respectful of the role of the courts in our society. Dr. Day and the Cambie Surgical Corporation and his supporters took this case to court. And this judgment, this 880-page judgment has been rendered today. And, our defense was successful in its entirety, but that doesn't change the importance in the society of people's right to exercise their legal rights. And so what Dr. Day does from here is of course up to him. Those are his rights, but this is a very good day for public health care and for people in BC who want access to care. And those are the people I keep front in my mind.
Next question is from Maria Weisgarber, CTV.
Hi, Mr. Dix. The BC Anesthesiologist Society, which was an intervener in the case, is saying that even though the ruling did dismiss the plaintiff's constitutional challenge, they found that some patients are still not receiving care in a timely manner, particularly surgical patients, which can lead to more pain and deterioration of their conditions. They're asking whether the province will commit to patient wait time guarantees. Is that something that the province would look to commit to?
Well, with great respect, and anesthesiologists have played and will continue to play a key role in this, we have been doing precisely that for the last couple of years. The increase in the number of hip and knee replacements, which is extraordinary when you think of what's involved in each of those operations. The increase from just over 14,000 in 2016, 17 to just under 19,000 in 2018-19 was an extraordinary success and reduced wait time. So we're going to continue to take those actions. We increased the largest one-year increase in surgeries occurred leading into 2018-19 in the first year of our plan. And you see in our surgical commitment that we made at the time, really, when we had to postpone elective surgeries, our commitment to people. And so you are going to see in this year, and we have seen already this summer, significant increase in the number of surgeries. And this is because resources are being applied, but it's also because of the work of those very people who are members of the BC Anesthesiologist Society. It's not by making guarantees that you get there. It's by actually providing the resources and making the changes necessary. And I want to give you one very practical example. When I became Minister of Health, only one MRI machine was in operation 24/7, and that number is now 8. Only a few MRI machines worked 19 hours a day, 7 days a week. That number is now 17. You use it by maximizing the resources in the public healthcare system by working with everyone, and that includes with anesthesiologists. So we are applying the resources, and the success of the surgical renewal plan is just an example of this. So today is a good day in court, but what we've been achieving together and what we're going to continue to achieve together to reduce wait times in this very challenging time, where we had to defer and postpone surgeries and now are making that up, is evidence of our fundamental commitment to this. This is about real change, and it's happening every day in hospitals and clinics across British Columbia.
Maria, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, I do. Thank you. What is the cost that the province has incurred for their involvement in this case, and will you pursue it to the Supreme Court of Canada should it reach that level?
Well, when you say would we pursue it to the Supreme Court of Canada, I mean, what's happened in this case, so you understand, is an action has been brought against the province. So we're defending the case. I can't comment on the issue of costs today and so on, because I don't think that's an issue that's been determined. But we're essentially, Canada Surgical sued the province, and we defended the public health care system. And today, in an 880-page judgment, Mr. Justice Steeves supported our defense in its entirety, and obviously we're pleased about that. These are important issues, though, and I know this will be a disappointing day for Dr. Day and for his supporters, and so I want to be respectful of that. But I have to say this is a really important day for public health care, for Medicare in Canada, and to continue with our commitment to increase the number of surgeries, increase the number of diagnostic tests, to reduce the time people have to wait. That's what we have been doing since 2017-18, and that's what our surgical renewal commitment that we've made in this difficult time of pandemic is all about. And Premier Horgan, I think, yesterday very emphatically, by supporting our plan this fall, of which surgeries is a major part, demonstrated his support as well.
Next question is from Ian Mulgrew, Postmedia.
Hi, Mr. Minister. I wonder if you could tell me whether you are going to enforce the provisions that have been upheld, and now that the injunctions, I presume, will be lifted, and what will happen with the doctors and the clinics that went to court to get injunctions because they said basically they will be forced to close down as a result of the enforcement efforts.
Well, Ian, I think it's fair to say that we're going to review the decision. It's 880 pages. It's obviously supports our position in its entirety. As you know, we took action last year that's been delayed because of injunction to support the Medicare Protection Act in British Columbia. In the case of diagnostic testing, we made the decision following a ruling of the court that we should delay or we were injuncted against implementing those provisions at that time. We don't have a date to reintroduce those provisions, and we'll obviously be considering that. But the Medical Services Commission's job is to ensure that the kind of extra billing that was being pursued here is not allowed in BC. It's contrary to the Medicare Protection Act. And so the law will continue, of course, to be enforced in British Columbia. But I think it's fair to say we'll be taking some time to review the judgment and take the appropriate action.
Do you have a follow-up, Ian?
I don't believe you've enforced the law yet, have you?
Sorry?
Yet, have you?
I didn't hear the question.
Oh, the law hasn't been enforced yet, has it? It's been held in abeyance, is my understanding.
That's right. As you'll remember, amendments to the Medicare Protection Act were made in the Minister of Health at the time. In those cases was Colin Hanson, and having passed those provisions through the legislature, the previous government chose not to proclaim them in the case of those provisions, and we have, as a government, chose to proclaim those provisions, and they've been held in abeyance up to this time. You're quite correct.
Next question is from Camille Baines, Canadian Press.
Hi, Minister Dix. I'm wondering what types of surgeries are being done through the private clinics. You mentioned, I think, over 12,000. What types are they?
They're exclusively day surgeries, Camille. So we have contracts in every health authority with different clinics. The most recent contract you may know is with the Falls Creek Surgical Center, which came back to an agreement with, in that case, the Fraser Health Authority to do procedures within the public system. And this gives us some flexibility to add extra capacity. But those obviously would not be the most serious surgeries. Those clinics tend to be located near public hospitals for obvious reasons. Should there be issues, then then they go to the hospitals as well. But there's a variety of procedures that are provided, but they're all day procedures. They're all meaning scheduled procedures, and we would expect to continue with them. And in fact, our contracts with those private clinics since the middle of June have been fully operational and are operating at 100% of capacity.
Do you have a follow-up, Camille?
Yes, please. Thanks. I'm wondering, going forward with COVID and trying to deal with the surgical backlogs, what type of a role do you see these private clinics playing? I mean, do you anticipate that, they're going to be kind of a release valve to get the system up and running more, or what's their role?
Well, they play a role now, and they've played a role for a number of years, and they've continued to play a role. I believe more surgeries were done at those clinics in 1920 than ever before. But that said, overwhelmingly, the increase in surgeries that we require to get rid of that backlog will be done in public hospitals, overwhelmingly. And we've talked about some of the methods that we're putting in place in our surgical plan, and we're detailing them monthly in our surgical plan. But they include extending the hours of operating rooms by an hour every day, which will add, as you can imagine, a significant amount of capacity to the system. It means improved methodology and organization of surgeries. It means it means, and we believe and we hope, as is happening now in some places, the expansion of surgeries to weekends so that we can, again, increase the use of operating rooms. We have, in the last number of years, opened new operating rooms, ones that had been mothballed or were no longer in use, and using them now. And of course, in all of the many hospital projects, and I'll spare you the very considerable list of hospital projects that we've announced, many of them include an expansion of operating room capacity and will be coming online in the next number of years. So we're going to do exactly what we did with MRIs, which is maximize the use of the public system and all its efficiencies, and to work with our unbelievable teams of surgeons and nurses and healthcare workers to get that done. And that's going to continue. And as you see in the case of MRIs, we have added MRIs, of course. We have purchased, in the case of the Fraser Health Authority, 2 private MRI clinics effectively. But we've also dramatically increased the hours of operation of those MRI machines. Equally, we've done that in surgery, such that we went in 1 year from, I believe, approximately 236,000 elective surgeries to approximately 250,000, or a little over 250,000 surgeries in the first year of operation, which is, when you think of what's involved in a surgery, an extraordinary increase. Equally, we've done the same thing by efficient application of resources for colonoscopy. So a lot of what we do to improve surgical capacity in the public healthcare system is all that. And just as important are the changes that are being put in place in primary care. So all of this is to maximize the use of the public healthcare system. So there is a role for private clinics, but massively our ability to respond to this backlog and to increase the number of surgeries is dependent on a public healthcare system that is working to its full and maximum capacity. And that's our goal, and that's what we've been doing for a couple of years, and is central to the surgical renewal commitment.
We have time for one more question this afternoon, and that is from Timothy Bergeron, CBC Radio Canada.
Yes, hi, Mr. Dix. J'aimerais avoir une réaction, s'il vous plaît, en français là, à cette décision-là. Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire là, pour la suite des choses pour les cliniques privées? C'est quoi la relation donc entre les cliniques privées et la province là, pour la suite des choses?
Effectivement, c'est une victoire pour le système de santé publique au Canada. Une victoire où notre défense de ce système, de notre défense du Medicare Protection Act en Colombie-Britannique était complète. Et ça, c'est important. C'est-à-dire que la nécessité que l'accès aux soins dans un système de santé publique dépend seulement des besoins des gens et pas de leur capacité de payer. C'est fondamental, c'est un élément fondamental de notre système. Nous utilisons de temps en temps, l'année dernière à peu près un peu plus de 12 000 cas chirurgie en Colombie-Britannique des cliniques privées, bien entendu, qui sont inclus dans le système de santé publique au Canada, mais ici en Colombie-Britannique, et qui suit la loi, que ce soit le Medicare Protection Act, que ce soit le Canada Health Act au Canada. Donc, on travaille déjà avec eux. Ce qui est en cause, c'est de ne pas payer plus pour recevoir plus de services. Ça, c'était en cause dans ce cas. Et le jugement de monsieur le justice Steves à cet égard était excellent pour la province, excellent pour le système de santé publique.
Do you have a follow-up, Timothy?
Yes, I would like to an answer maybe in both languages. Do you have an idea of how many clinics were operating until now in violation of the law because it wasn't necessarily enforced? The fines were not enforced. How many clinics are we talking about that could be fined or forced to shut down again?
Well, I think the significant difference is what's been happening, and what I'm very proud of, is the increase in services in the public healthcare system. You see this both in surgeries and in diagnostic care. And obviously, when you provide that service, when you increase the number of hip and knee replacements from 14,200 to close to 19,000 in a single year. When you increase the number of MRIs from 174,000 to 252,000 in a short period of time, a year, when you increase the number of colonoscopies from 120,000 to 140,000 in a short period of time in a year, that obviously is a public health care response to the needs and the health needs of British Columbians, and that's what we're going to continue to do. This court case was a challenge by the Cambie Surgical Corporation to the Medicare Protection Act, and in a general sense to, we talked about, I think it's sections 14, 17, 18, and 45, but in general, the banning of extra billing in the system for medically necessary care that's considered medically necessary under the Medicare Protection Act and by the Medical Services Commission. So that's what's in question here, and most of the clinics that I talked about earlier who work with us, of course, follow the Canada Health Act and the Medicare Protection Act. I think there's sometimes a confusion in Canada about some of these questions. Most, for example, primary care providers are effectively private clinics, but they bill to the Medicare Services Plan, and that's how our system has worked in Canada. It's the extra billing, it's the assurance that access to care depends not on your pocketbook, but on your need, which is fundamental. Je dirais en français que effectivement, les efforts des dernières années étaient importants pour démontrer notre, je pense, dévouement au système de santé publique. Nous avons augmenté le nombre de chirurgies, nous avons augmenté le nombre de tests dans la province, et l'effet est important pour les gens qui souffrent. Et donc, on va continuer à poursuivre chaque opportunité de faire en sorte. On travaille actuellement avec des cliniques privées qui suivent la loi au Canada. C'est légitime pour une citoyenne au Canada ou une entreprise comme Cambie Surgical de monter un cas au tribunal, et c'est ce qu'ils ont fait. Maintenant, on a une décision, et j'en suis ravi. Merci beaucoup. Thanks very much.
Thank you.